This is Old Man River. Today I'm at Fort Darling, or Drewry's Bluff of the Richmond National Battlefield. Today's date is 17 January 2018. I'm Philip. This is Old Man River. Today I'm at Drewry's Bluff, also called Fort Darling of the Richmond National Battlefield Park. Today's date is January 18, 2020. It is sleeting and snowing out here right now. This is where you get off of Drewry's Bluff Road. It's exit 64. So I will be going up the road and talking to you later as I take regular pictures. We're at the gate to the Drewry's Bluff, and in a second we will be walking down. I just wanted to show you what this map is. Okay, here we go. You'll see a sign that says Trail to Fort and Little Gate. Let's take a walk down History Lane. Now, I don't know how far down the road this fort is, so I'm going to talk for a little while, and we may stop and smell the roses, as they say. This is part of the Richmond battlefield and the forts and stuff to protect Richmond from getting captured. Now, Richmond in the past did a halfway decent job of protecting historic sites and battlefields and stuff, but lately they're not doing quite so well. As you can tell, it looks like we're in the middle of the woods. As you can tell, some people like to dump trash off. There's an empty burn barrel right there. Well, it's a beautiful day for a walk. Right now there's no snow or sleet coming down. And my gloves protect most of my fingers. So I'm in wonderful shape. We got another sign coming up, pointing to the left. Okay, from here we get off of pavement onto a gravel road. Sorry about the delay, but my assistant had to put my ends of my gloves on the finger holes so that it don't freeze, because the temperature out here is in the 20s. Oh, somebody been cutting firewood up here. We're getting into some older trees here. And I'm assuming that the fence there is the edge of the battlefield park. Well, we got an old growth oak coming up. And here's another one there. See, like I said about the maintenance, that tree's been down quite a while and they haven't bothered repairing the fence. Now, this is the first time I've ever been to this particular fort or historic site in the Richmond area, so excuse me for not knowing everything about it at the beginning. Now, that was put in a long time ago. It's to stop flow. I wonder why. Oh, look at that. That big old washout there. Maybe that's why. Okay, let's see what this says. In 1863, Drewry Bluff expanded into a military city. Hundreds of Confederate soldiers, sailors, and Marines camped on these grounds. The Confederate States Naval Academy held classes in buildings aboard the side-wheeler steamer Patrick Henry, anchored in the James River. A wide variety of supporting structures that include barracks, chapel, post office, hotel, and even a Masonic lodge. Steamships brought civilians down from Richmond nearly every day to picnic, socialize, and watch the sailors and Marines drill. June 1865, Union officers' wives gathered in front of the porch of a former Confederate building. Okay, let's walk a little further. Oh, there's a sign up there too. Let's see what that sign up there says. Okay, Drewry's Bluff, at least for the present, is a headquarters of the course, and I may consequently reasonably expect to stay here for quite some time at least. Henry Lee Graves, 1862. Okay, Lloyd J. Beale was a 1830 graduate of the U.S. Military Academy, fought in the Black Hawk Seminole and Mexican Wars before rising to the rank of major. Civil War came, he was appointed Commandant of the Confederate States Marine Corps in 1861. Okay, he served in that capacity until the end of the war. Camp Beale. From 1862 to 1865, the training of Confederate Marines took place in the area in front of you, Camp Beale. Okay. 3 companies of Confederate Marines were permanently stationed here, the largest concentration of Confederate Marines anywhere in the South. After participating in the battle here on May 15, 1862, Confederate Marines immediately began construction of the camp, although it was not until that winter that permanent structures were finalized. The Marines often complained of boredom and inactivity, yet Drewry and Bluff remained important posts that could be attacked at any time. Marines trained here at Camp Beale later transferred to ships to the Navy and other posts throughout the Confederacy. So apparently it's a very important training area. This is something that I really didn't know. Because I just happened to pass by it on the way to a shopping center. And on the way back, I told my daughter, hey, we're going to stop here. You got a few minutes, you just ate at McDonald's. It looks like I can see a building up there. So we must be getting closer to what they would call the main fort. A very neat chapel. The little white chapel that stood here was built by soldiers of the garrison and held about 150 people. Different ministers came to Richmond each week to preach. A small burial ground was located just 50 yards beyond the chapel. The life of Jordan was not without hazards from battle or disease. Hey, Steph. Oh, good. Those fingers are starting to freeze. Well, let's take a quick look right over here. Okay, that's assuming what was called Drewry's Bluff. And there's the James River. Fenced to keep us idiots out. Before somebody fell down and broke their Fool Neck. Probably some adventurous person that had more money than sense and wanted to get a hazardous selfie. Not me, I'm not an idiot. Battlements. These mounds most likely were dug and made by Confederate troops or indentured people. There's a bridge over there. Let's go up here to the observation post. Oh, look at the river. Beautiful up here. This point is a wonderful defensive position. It's on high ground, so if any ships came up the river, they could blast them to hell. As I said, there's one of the cannons. The Battle of Drewry's Bluff, May 15th, 1862. When Federal gunboats rounded the distant bend of the river, they entered a shooting gallery. Confederate soldiers and Marines along the riverbank raked the decks with musket fire. Confederate guns here in the fort opened fire. The river obstructions consisted of sunken ships and stone cribs worked as planned. The USS Galena could not drive through them, so it swung broadside the channel and ordered fire its guns at the bluff. For 4 hours, the Galena and her crew heard relentless pounding from the Confederate gunner before retreating down the river. Of the 164 officers and men aboard, 27 fell killed or wounded. Southern forces suffered 15 casualties. The first attempt to take Richmond by river failed, and never again would the U.S. Navy challenge the guns of Drewry Bluff. And there's one of the type of guns that was used. Well, let's see what the monitor. The first ironclad. Sailors in the Confederate Navy. Luckily, there's a handrail for us handicapped people. There, what the Union Confederate gunners would have saw as they was coming down the river. Big ass gun. There's the earthworks. They're all around us, as you can see. Trees growing out of them now. They were defensive positions. Eight large guns are here. Okay, this 1865 photograph was made from where you now stand. The Union soldier rests on the doorway of a bomb-proof that provided shelter during heavy bombardment. The fort's well and hand pump are visible in the foreground. The bomb-proof and well have long since collapsed. The gun position to the right now stands vacant. That's the same type of gun you saw up there a minute ago. And there's where it would have been. Okay, I am going back across here. That road don't appear to go anywhere. Now, let me take a look, but I don't think it does. Collapsed bomb-proof sign right there. Oh, the road does go around a little further. More bomb-proofs. More fortifications. Back side of it, as you can see. This would have been an extremely difficult place for Federal troops to attack. Covered way. During the battle, supplies could be brought to the fort through covered way, a tunnel protected from shell fire. And I'm assuming this was part of it. Of course, it's a modern ridge without the cover. A perfect Gibraltar. After the repulse of the U.S. Navy on May 15, 1862, Drewry Bluff became famous as a tangible symbol of resistance. Work crews made up in slave labor continued construction of the fort, eventually completing a four-sided closed earthwork bristling with guns. This photograph taken from the wall behind you shows the section built after May 15th. Following the war, the bomb-proofs collapsed, leaving deep impressions in the earth. Note the ground was completely open, allowing Fort and defenders to see miles. When orders came to evacuate Richmond, the Confederate garrison abandoned the fort and joined Lee's army during the retreat to Appomattox. For many of them, their active service ended at the Battle of Sailor's Creek, April 6, 1865. Drewry's Bluff did not remain vacant long. Union troops immediately took possession of the fort and for 3 years had barred their way to Richmond. Drewry's Bluff is a perfect Gibraltar and can never be taken by gunboats. Henry L. Graves, 2nd Georgia Battalion. This is the last of the signs, hot shot and wooden ships at the end of the era. Men of the ironclad made traditional wooden hull ships obsolete. Despite this, Confederate used central device here, the hot shot furnace. Inside the furnace, solid shot was heated red hot. Clay wads of wet hay were then inserted between the powder and the ball to keep the heat from igniting the powder immediately. When fired at a wooden ship, the sizzling missile would set the ship ablaze. The photographs who visited Drewry's Bluff in 1865 found the quaint little hot shot irresistible and made at least 3 different views of it. Not surprising, the furnace here was never used in battle. This incredible image was taken from where you now stand. Furnace for hot heating shot were erected at the forts on the seacoast. The furnaces hold 60 or more shot. The shot being placed, the furnace cold. It required an hour and 15 minutes to heat them to red heat. Small charges should then be hot shot firing, vary from 1/4 to 1/6 away the balls. Balls fired with small velocities put the wood in a manner which is favorable for burning. And there's a close-up of the hot shot. And that is the end of our tour. And I want to thank you, because there's the road going back and there's no point in seeing things twice. This is Old Man River signing off for this particular spot. I will see you again in the future.